What is going on, everybody? This is indeed the E-Man, chilling like a villain, singing like Bob Dylan, keep it on the low with some double stuffed Oreos, and I am back with an amazing guest. I think about, I don't know, 4 months ago, I had the honor of chatting with this legendary writer of many things. He has worked with Robin Williams, he has worked with Harold Ramis, but he was a writer on Saved by the Bell and Saved by the Bell, the new class. I had such a good time talking to him. I just wanted to follow up with a few questions. I'm so honored to say I have Bennett Tramer on the special delivery show once again. Hello, Bennett. How you doing today?
I'm good, Emmanuel, and I enjoyed the first time, so this should be enjoyable as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How are things in California today, sir?
Oh, it's a mess.
Yeah,
What can I tell you?
yeah,
I feel,
yeah.
feel sorry for people who are being harassed by the ICE agents, but hopefully things will get better and try to stay optimistic in a difficult time.
Absolutely, absolutely, sir. Well, I did want to, it's not to start too much on a downer in the beginning, but
Uh,
we had some recent deaths, and first I wanted to ask you about, you know, Malcolm Jamal Warner was a part of the NBC family, and he recently passed away.
yeah.
Since you guys were both part of the NBC family, did you have any encounters with him? Do you remember at all, if any?
I don't think I did, but the Cosby Show we were NBC, Saved by the
Right.
Bell. Cosby Show was the biggest show on NBC, so we really appreciated the audience they got for the network, and he was good. The whole cast was good, so it's really a shame that he's not with us anymore.
Definitely, man. It's definitely a loss. I looked on your Instagram earlier this week, and he had this picture of you and Robin Williams, and
Yeah.
we touched on, and his birthday recently passed, and we
Mhm.
touched on Robin Williams before, but I didn't get too deep into it. But
Mhm.
I gotta say, me personally, when he passed away, as well as Harold Ramis, because I am a huge Ghostbusters fan, like unbelievably, so much of a Ghostbusters fan. But when Robin passed away, um, I, I remember specifically that day, me and my sister, we had a really deep conversation about mental health, and
Mhm.
he was just, man. I mean, the whole world felt it, and I felt like his death was a definite opening up of talking about mental health and everything like that. So I wanted to ask you, as you've written for him, you were his friend that day. What were you feeling that day, if you don't mind sharing?
Well, it's like when George Harrison died and Paul McCartney said, "I'm devastated like everybody." That was kind of the feeling. It was
Yeah.
devastating, and you felt everybody. For certain people are just loved beyond their skill or talent or whatever. Not that Robin or George Harrison were extremely talented. And you just felt this tremendous loss personally because I'd known him so well, especially in the 70s and 80s. I was very, very close to him. And, it's hard to believe that there's no more Robin anymore. And it was just so devastating, terrible, awful. And then I heard it first, and I had to break it to my wife, who knew Robin as well as I did.
Mm,
And it was just shocking. I had heard he wasn't in great shape, but I didn't know it was that bad. And a mental illness. I'm glad you brought that up because so many, not so many, maybe a few only say, well, how could he do this, commit suicide when he had, children, three children and a new wife? And he wasn't thinking rationally. He had a tremendous Lewy body dementia is a particular mental illness that he had. And you're not
mm,
thinking rationally. Who knows what was going through his brain? You have paranoid suicidal fantasies when you have that disease. And so who knows what was going through his mind? It's a shame that he was in so much pain and so much misery. And
yeah.
it just, it's sort of sad, whatever the step beyond sad is, miserable. That's how I felt. And it's been a long time now, so I try not to delve into the negative and the positive that he left everybody with this incredible energy and brightness and light, bright light that he had about him. But it's sad. It's a sad story. let's say a sad ending, but a very positive story with all that he gave to the world. And remember Comic Relief, that was him and movie
Yes.
Crystal. And imagine all the money they raised to help homeless people. And they go visit, and Robin would go to war zones, to Afghanistan and Iraq. And while he was especially opposed to the intervention in Iraq, his attitude was like, well, these soldiers, it wasn't their idea to do this. They're just, doing their job being here. And he would go entertain, even though he didn't support the war. He thought that, well, the guys deserve to have entertainment while they're over here. So he was a very, very unbelievably gifted guy, and I think he really did want to make the world a better place. So it's a real
And
loss. As guys like that only come along, and women of that level every so often.
he definitely was, man. Like I said, my sister, me and her just had a long conversation about it because I grew up on Mork and Mindy, and then to see him in Goodwill Hunting and just see him evolve as one of the most, to me, one of the most versatile actors I've ever seen. He there was this one movie he was in called 1 Hour Photo, and I was just amazed that he was able to pull
Whoa.
that off.
Boy,
Um,
boy, that was a rough one. My God,
yes,
totally believable as this really guy with a real problem, and he was totally believable.
yes, he was amazing. He was amazing. But to just bring this interview to a happier moment,
Right.
um, you talked about working with Michael J. Fox
Hmm.
on Poison Ivy. Now, there's this really funny story. I don't know if you've seen his documentary called Still or not. But there's this hilarious story with where Michael J. Fox talks about how Brandon Tartikoff didn't want him to play the role of Alex P. Keaton on Family Ties because he didn't think he was marketable. And then come to find out, Brandon wanted Matthew Broderick to play that role. But anyway, when Family Ties started to blow up and started to get big, Michael J. Fox and he sent Brandon Tartikoff a lunchbox saying, eat crow, or something like that. But I just thought that was really funny. What was it like working with Michael J. Fox? Again, another one of my heroes. I'm a huge Teen Wolf fan. I love Back to the Future. So yeah, what was it like working with him?
He was really nice, really professional. We got very friendly because he was a basketball fan, and the Lakers and Celtics were in their 7-game series So he
Nice.
and Adam Baldwin, who was another actor in Poison Ivy, would watch the games together. That was a really, some writers aren't always on location, but because it was written as a movie originally for Warner Brothers, and then I did a version for Fox. So to make it a TV movie, and I was on the location, I did a fast rewrite before they started shooting. I mean, we were shooting with actors on hiatus, like Michael and Robert Klein was doing the Dick Clark practical, jokes and bloopers and stuff, and
Oh
uh,
yeah.
and and Nancy McKeon was in her series.
Right. Facts of Life.
Yeah, yeah. So you couldn't fool around and wait because they had to go back to work. So you really had to be on time because this was just their break in between shooting their series, their summer
Wow.
break. So you really had to do it fast. And so I was on location and I'd make changes, while we were shooting. Writers aren't always welcome on location. That director, Larry Elkin, was really a good director. And he had worked with Michael J. Fox on a series, I think it was called Palmerstown or something like that, that Michael had done. It wasn't a successful series. And Larry was a real old pro. I think Knots Landing was the series he most directed, but he went way back to the early days of television. And he was just a real solid old pro. He wouldn't give long, elaborate directions to the actors. He'd be very precise, like, you're being bitter, I want you to be sad. Just simple as that, just one or two
Yeah.
guides. And Michael was very friendly, very nice guy, very enjoyable to be with. He'd kid about, oh, it wasn't bad for America's sweetheart, which is what people had called him. And not the egotistical at all. Very, very nice guy.
That's awesome. Um, yeah, I like. Did you ever hear about that Brandon Tartikoff story?
No, I'd actually heard that Brandon, one reason that he didn't want Michael is he made the comment about, I can't imagine that kid on a lunchbox. So
Right,
the
right.
lunchbox was a direct rebuttal. Brandon had that in his office, by the way. Brandon, you get it goes to the top, like some sports teams have bad ownership.
Hmm.
and filters down or good ownership filters down. Brandon was a very, very good studio executive. He was very smart. He understood writing. He understood what was involved in making a series or a TV or a TV movie. Had a good knack for what would play and not play. And I was very fortunate when I was in NBC. Brandon was the president for most of the time, and then Warren Littlefield took over as president, who had been Brandon's like vice president or executive president or whatever. And he was really good too, you know. And Warren went on his own and has done, you know, Handmaid's Tale, I believe, is Warren Littlefield production before
Wow.
the TV series. So some of these guys who are presidents of studios or presidents of networks go on their own and don't do a whole lot. But Warren's been very, very successful with that.
Fantastic. Of course, Saved by the Bell fans know him from the episode with Johnny Dakota. He shows up.
Yeah.
I just thought that was so cool. That's how I got to know who he was. And it's so funny. Reading and listening to books, I learned like how much of a role he played. I listened to Will Smith's book, and he mentioned Brandon Tartikoff and everything like that. I wanted to say too because I
The
listened.
Cosby Show, excuse me interrupting, Manuel, but you
No, you're
mentioned
good.
the Cosby Show. Brandon saw Cosby do his act, you know, in the 80s in Las Vegas. And he said, you know, TV, they keep giving you variety specials. You have such good stories about family. Why don't you just play like a parent with a wife and kids? And that was all from Brandon. And that's where the Cosby Show came from. And
Wow.
Miami Vice, MTV had just started in the 80s, and Brandon liked the feel of MTV, and he said, let's do MTV. Boy, I got rented lips, as Robin would say. Let's do MTV style for a cops show. And that's what led to Miami Vice. So those were
Wow.
his ideas.
Wow.
Yeah,
He was
smart guy.
kind of he was like ahead of the curve. Um I wanted to say this. I've listened to our previous interview a lot, and I've always kicked myself in the pants for not saying a few things. One, the episode that you wrote, the cut day episode. No,
Hmm.
sorry, not the cut day episode, but
I did write that one though.
yes, you did. And but I wanted to say the SAT episode. There was also a guest star and there is Ben Stiller's wife. And she was on this show called Hey Dude,
Right.
and I can't. She has a great podcast out, and I cannot remember her name right now. But she was in that episode. I thought that was really great. Um,
I
also,
didn't realize that till just now. Did she have a big part or was she
yeah, she played the girl that Zach had interest in.
oh, you
Um,
boy, this is a very informational interview for me.
yeah, that's Ben Stiller's wife. Oh gosh, I can't think of her name right now. But
She was good in the show, as I remember. Now that show, when I first got the job, I said to Peter, "We got to lace into the S." To Peter Engel, my boss, we got to lace into the SATs because they put so much pressure on kids in those days to do well on the SATs and get into the right college. And Peter said, "Well, we'll eventually get to that." So finally, we did the SATs episode.
yes, that was a wonderful episode. But also, I wanted to ask you, and give you your flowers too, because with Say by the Bell in the new class, the cast was so diverse. I didn't mention the last interview. You had Salem Grant, who was in this. Actually, he was in this Bill Cosby movie called Ghost Dad.
Mhm.
Bianca Lawson, who was gorgeous, and I seen her in some show recently, and I'm like, she's only aged 5 years since
Yeah,
since the new class. She looks amazing. Natasha Kalecki, is that her name? Natalia.
yeah.
She's wonderful. Such a diverse cast. Um, did you have any part in that as far as the casting and
Yeah, yeah, I did with Peter and continuing, you know, with Anthony in later years with Anthony Harrell and
yes, amazing singer. Yes.
yeah, Samantha. I mean, we just was always our feeling. And going back to Mario and the original and Lark, and I don't even think it's about ratings initially. I guess you could get more people watching, but it was just like, you know, the world isn't all white people, you know. I mean, we wanted black kids and Latino kids to look at this show and see themselves in it. And I remember specifically Lark's, this is going back to the original class. Lark's mother was a doctor, and I believe her dad was a doctor too. And that was the
Yes.
level of, let's show some really, black achievement. And it was to show that this is what you can aspire to and what had happened. And I remember I also said when we got Bianca, I said, well, let's give her dad a high position thing so black kids can aspire to this. And I believe we made Bianca's dad a judge, right? In the new class.
Yeah, and ironically enough, her dad is actually an actor in real life.
Yeah,
Um, mm,
Richard Lawson, I believe. And
yep,
so that was very intentional to have really good adult role, to have a diverse. Yeah, that probably come after me because diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, diversity we always wanted to have. Let's have a real mix there to reflect what the country's like. So we had, you know, white, black, and brown. And equity, we finally got female writers on the staff with Renee Paleo, who was the first writer to write on the Saturday Morning Bell, who was a woman, and then Jordana Arkin after that. And so that's equity, and inclusion is not just have a token woman, but give her some more, power. And they both were very respected members of the staff. Renee, I would say, was my right-hand person. For the second or third season she was on this show. So that was, yeah, oh, maybe that's Renee calling saying, did you pronounce my name right? Hold on.
okay,
Hello. They hung up on me. Sorry about that.
it's okay.
Uh, so yeah, no, no, I'm proud of that we, tried to have a cast that reflected the country.
Definitely, definitely. And all right, so I'm gonna run something by you. Something I
Sure.
okay. So I know you get a lot of theories on a regular basis, but
Mhm.
I made this as a joke because I started writing again. And in my story, in the story that I'm writing, one of the characters, he's a huge fan of Saved by the Bell, and
Right.
he says jokingly to his girlfriend, "I think Zach Morris is an alien," right? And I said, because he says he's able to freeze time, he breaks the fourth wall. But then the more I started to think about the joke, the more it started to make sense. So, like, not only do I think that Zach Morris is an alien, but I think he's a reality warping alien because in he because in Good Morning Mrs. Bliss it takes place in Indiana, right? Right, and
Yeah,
so
I didn't work on that show, but it does take place in Indiana. Yeah.
it takes place in Indiana, right? So I feel like Zach Morris is kind of like that guy. He's like, you know what? I'm not feeling this anymore. I'm gonna reality warp this whole thing. I'm gonna bring the people I like with me, which is Lisa Belding and Lisa and Belding and Screech, and I'm gonna move us to California. So I feel like he has these like reality warping powers where he's able to do that. And because they never make reference to Good Morning Mrs. Bliss and Saved by the Bell ever. They never explain that whole thing.
Zach can stop time with timeout, so maybe he is an alien. That's not a human power.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. It's like it's so. I really feel like that character is an alien. But to even bring more truth to this theory that I have, like when you think about the Tori episodes, when Tori pops up, and Tiffany and Elizabeth are mysteriously gone. Tori appears for a season and then she disappears, and they never make mention of her. Nobody remembers her ever, except on the reboot where Zach mentions Tori to Kelly. She's like, "Who's Tori?"
Yeah.
So that, and I think that like even when you think about Saved by the Bell, the college years, he Zach is still able to break the fourth wall, but he
Right.
doesn't do any more timeouts. So I feel like the older he gets on Earth, the more human he becomes. And so like that, my theory is he like he's an alien, and he's able to do these things, freeze time, break the fourth wall. And so I was wondering, what do you think about that?
I think it's worth pursuing. I mean, there's NBC is a protective of Saved by the Bell, legally, but it's a funny idea. It made me laugh, so it must be a funny idea when you were telling it. So it's funny. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I was really giving that a lot of thought. Because it's
I
like
heard
in
Chuck Jones speak once. Chuck Jones, the great cartoon creator of, the Roadrunner and Pepe Le Pew
Oh
and
yeah, yes.
those. Boy, I don't know. My phone never rings. So this could be part of the interview.
Okay.
Hello. Wow. The ghost of Chuck Jones. Well, as far as humor, I heard him speak at UC. I went to USC Film School, but he was speaking at UCLA, and someone asked him, "Why do you think violence in cartoons is funny?" And he said, "Because people laugh at it." I think that's the best argument. Why do you think it's funny? Because people laugh. So if people laugh at it, it's funny. It's a pretty simple definition. It may not be funny to you, but it's funny to people. They're laughing at it.
Yeah.
Saved by the
Yeah.
Bell tapings, the studio audience would really break up. We'd have to kind of quiet them down sometimes. They were laughing so much, the live audience.
Yes. And tell me if this is true or not. When you guys would film like the scenes where you guys are inside of a movie theater, it's not a set at all. It's actually the audience, that's the audience where the audience would normally sit. Is that correct?
Yeah, we'd shoot that during the day.
Wow.
Was it where the audience sat or was it a set? But we have to shoot that during the day. It might have been. It's a long time ago now. But yeah, we would shoot some stuff during the day, and most of the show would be done live. But there'd be a couple, watch the screens, and would be a couple of segments that involving because you couldn't shoot that and still have an audience there, or the cast got wet and they had to dry off, and it would take too long with the time limits we had to tape. So there were always a few scenes you'd watch on the TV, maybe just one or two each episode. And you had to have a really good guy talking to the audience. Phil Steller was the guy we used the most, was his name, to explain what was going on. Now remember, it's been 15 minutes setting up, and that last scene, oh, this is a scene we shot earlier and it follows this scene. So you really, that kind of guy was really important. The guy who spoke to the audience throughout.
Okay, he was like the hype guy.
Yeah, yeah, he would get
Okay.
and the explainer. And in Yiddish theater, it's called Jake the Explainer, who explains everything. That may not be clear.
Now we're like whenever something would happen on Saved by the Bell, there'll be these woos and
Yeah, that
ooh.
was real, and people think like, oh, why did they have to add that? We tried to quiet that down. That
Mhm.
was not added. They would and sometimes Phil Steller, who was like the warm-up guy who talked during the show that I mentioned, he'd say like, this time try not to make so many oohs. We have to shoot it again because it would drown out. They'd still be saying ooh after they stopped kissing and were doing their dialogue. Yeah, that was all real. We had hardly ever used. We had a laugh machine if we had to, but we hardly ever had to use it because the audience was so responsive to what they were seeing. They're excited to be there to begin with. Wow, we're actually seeing this live. So they're really good to get reactions from them because they're on an up to begin with, just being there and seeing these people in the flesh, that they watched on TV.
Okay, that's that. I really did think it was being looped in or something like that because it always sounded the same. But you're saying those are real woos?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can't say
Wow.
sometimes. I don't know how often. On the average show, because I would be in editing, we had a machine. If someone says something and doesn't get a laugh, we hardly ever used it. And people seem to think it's all laugh track. I mean, this much later, I tell you if we faked it. But no, we didn't. There was a very, very responsive studio audience. Like I said, they
Wow.
come in really excited just to be there.
Wow, that's amazing. I want to say I'm not exactly sure if you wrote this episode or not. Did you write the episode where it was the episode where Tiffany Amber Thieus and Kelly when she cheats on Zach and she breaks up with Zach and dates Jeff. Did you write that episode?
No, I don't think I did actually. But
Oh,
again, I would say all the episodes we came up with together and we did the 7-page outline together.
mm-hmm.
And then the writer would go off and have a week to write his draft, her draft later on. We got some female writers, and then we'd all rewrite it together. So I would say you could tell each of us had our own flavor. You could tell who wrote it. But the funniest joke in a script that I wrote might have come from one of the other writers in the outline or in the rewrite. And the best scene idea in somebody else's that they wrote may have been something I came up with. So it was collaborative. I think each person had their own style and would take the script in a certain, also we'd sort of steer it. Like I always seemed to write the ones where there were plays and things like that, just because I was into the school play and drama stuff. So those would be geared toward me. But
Nice.
or when it's your idea and you really felt strongly with the SATs, I had so pushed that they said, yeah, no, all right, that's one you should write. I don't think the breakup one I wrote. I'm pretty sure I didn't. I worked on
Yeah.
it, but I didn't write it. I wasn't
Uh,
the credited author.
That I mean, I remember as a kid watching that and feeling some type of way about it. I was like, I'm not liking this. She cheated on Zach. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah. And I was glad about that. And having to deal with the breakup, I think some 12-year-old kid who hadn't dealt with that yet, will see it really hurts.
oh
To
yeah,
break up and to find out your girl loves somebody else. And so we thought some of this we thought, well, we're giving kids a taste of what high school life might be like. It's a Saturday morning version, but th those feelings were very real. When
very.
Nick loses Kelly, that could have been a primetime show or a movie. I mean, it really hurt. Peter Engel was very good that way. He said we've got to take these emotions seriously. And Peter said, I don't want any teacher or parent to say, years from now, you'll look back at this and laugh, or, it hurts now, but you'll get over it soon. Just take their feelings seriously. To a kid breaking up with a girlfriend that he's been going with for a year or so is like a divorce to an adult.
Oh,
So
for sure. Yeah,
kind of condescending, oh, it's a big deal now, but it's a big deal and leave it as a big deal now. That's what we're dealing with. And Peter was very good that way to take kids. And it's part of our success is that we took kids' emotions seriously and we tried to write what we thought was funny, not write down to kids, well, I don't think this is funny, but a 12-year-old will get it. It usually had to make us laugh. And that I think that's the humor isn't condescending. It's very much what we thought was funny. There might be some reference to something that guys in their 30s or 40s would get that kids wouldn't. We'd have to leave that out. But the humor was, if we think this is funny, kids will think it's funny.
definitely. Sometimes when I watch the show, or even sometimes if I'm not able to watch it, I'll listen to it. A
Mhm.
lot of it reminds me a lot of the Archie comics. If you think about the dynamic between Zach Morris and the two other girls, or even the three
Well,
other girls,
Jughead too. Jughead
that
and Archie.
for sure. It feels like an Archie comic, and I meant to tell you this on our last interview too.
Sure.
You're actually the third person from the TNBC family that I interviewed. I had the opportunity to I had the opportunity and honor to interview J. Anthony Frankie from California Dreams.
Oh, sure.
I also interviewed Elisa Reyes from the TNBC show One World. So
Oh, yeah. That was a Peter Engel show. Yeah. Both those
yeah,
Peter.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And so that was it's quite it was quite an honor. So before we end this interview, I wanted
Mhm.
to know how are things going along with the one man show? I know you talked about that before. Or how's that
Well, I
going?
said I only had 45 minutes, but I'll do the whole hour and a half for you right now.
Oh no
No.
no 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 no! If you, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it's been
Yeah,
45 minutes
yeah,
already.
no, it's going well. I've got a completed first draft. I'm going over it. It's the kind of thing I have to figure out, and then I should do it for some friends and get their notes. Is this going to be, some 99-seat small theater in Santa Monica, and then maybe another version on the east side? Am I going to aim for a bigger venue? I really have to see, but it's going along. I think it's very funny, and I think anybody interested in what's a show business career like would find it interesting. And just, so much of it is me looking back what I thought my life would be like or what I wanted it to be like when I was a kid. What it turned out to be was very different than what I had thought. And I think people will, for young people, it's like, this is what my life could be like. And older people, let me think about my life and how my adult life compared to what I thought as a kid. So there's a lot going on. So hopefully it'll all, and just stories about Robin Williams and Rodney Dangerfield and Saved by the Bell and Richard Lewis and Harold Ramis, people that I knew and worked with. So I think, I met all these famous directors when I was a kid, Alfred Hitchcock and Orson Welles would meet.
Wow.
They'd speak at USC Film School. Yeah, I can tell you a little bit if you want to sneak. Hitchcock brought his movie Frenzy. It was 1972, I think, when I was at USC Film School. And then afterwards, the professor invited a few students to come to his house with Hitchcock and Alma Hitchcock, his wife. and Peter Bogdanovich and Sybil Shepherd also came. So to sit there and talk with Hitchcock, uh, and I made sure I sat next to him, and to talk with this one of the greatest directors of all time was quite an experience. And he said it was nice seeing Frenzy with an audience. It's the first movie he'd seen with an audience of his that he'd seen with an audience since North by Northwest. And I said, "You've never seen Psycho with an audience?" And he said, "No, never have."
Wow.
I said, "It scares the hell out of people." And Hitchcock said, "I've heard." So there you go. And
Wow.
that was amazing.
Your life is just, I hope you do that one man show, man, because your life is incredible. Not only with Saved by the Bell in a new class, but being roommates with John Carpenter, working with Robin Williams, working with
Yeah,
Harold
no, I've
Ramis.
had a very, very,
Incredible.
I appreciate the encouragement. Yeah, I've had a very varied life. And although it didn't, movies was my dream, which I didn't have, one movie made, that didn't happen the way I wanted it to. But Saved by the Bell, which I think I told you, I had a Saturday morning show. I don't know if I want to do that, but I guess I have to. I've got a house and a kid. That's the thing everybody knows. So who would have thought? It's also the show is a lesson of don't be a snob. This thing that you think is a come down might be the thing that everybody loves. So you just never know.
Yes, man. You never know, man. But again, thank you so much for your time. It was a
Sure.
pleasure talking to you again. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of the day. And take care.
You too, Emmanuel. Let me know when this is up. I'll look forward to it. And you're a good interviewer, and I
Thank
wish you
you.
the best.